Okay.
so that I don't forget like I did last time. I felt so badly.
Yeah, I've done that too.
If it's only the two of us, I'm going to say something I've said in the past
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
I do think that pet partners do a type of intervention.
Okay.
I respect what everyone does. I'm upset that there's so many people who call it therapy, but you're so right on target about the differences, and I actually like the idea of support services because I think it gives the pet partners people respect that they deserve.
Thank you.
Because
I appreciate that.
It's not simply volunteers. I mean, it does have benefits.
Yeah, it does. It does. And, we can't quantify it, but we know, those of us who do it know the benefits.
Even the whole thing of quantifying, I do psychodynamic therapy. I mean, it's not really quantifiable per se. It's a process that you see over time, and you don't do a checklist, and it's so it's I guess depends how you look at it in different ways. But
yeah, well, I really appreciate you saying you doing that, and yeah, there's just a tremendous impact that the volunteers have. There's so many of them now.
There's no question. Just as long as everyone knows what they're doing, what their goals are, what they're doing, what they're called. And the problem is when people sort of, jump up a little bit too much. Like the stuff I don't know how to do. There's so much I don't know how to do, and I don't pretend that I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everyone needs to know their limitations, right? As a volunteer,
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
As a volunteer, I don't know how to do activities. I mean, I don't. I really, really.
Yeah.
It's just different. Hi, Michael. Michael.
How are you guys?
I didn't even answer you when you didn't, said you weren't coming to the last meeting. I was going to say, oh no, I want Michael there. And I didn't even answer.
Yeah, I was in Denver with the Path Board, and was our first in-person meeting in 2 years.
Well, how was it?
It was nice. It was good and enjoyable, and everybody traveled and had the airport experience, and nobody got COVID. So
That's a miracle with all the traveling. Yeah. And did you see Philip?
yeah, I did not. No.
Oh,
Nope.
You did not.
It was really 2 days of pretty intense work.
And
I
Philip
did not
wasn't
see
part
him,
of
no.
it.
It was 2 days of fairly intense work with the Path Board.
That's too bad. I always really, really enjoy spending time with Philip. He's such a good guy.
Yes,
Luckily,
absolutely.
I've had a few opportunities to spend, a really good quality time with him, and he's come to Israel a couple of times for the programs that he set up, and
Right.
And this past, during the COVID, he keeps planning, and then another mutation, and planning and another mutation, and then. Oh well.
That's how it goes.
Till the next time. Yeah. I'm recording. I remember this time. That's the first thing I did when I opened the meeting. I said, recording.
I usually leave myself a Post-it right by my camera, so I have to, helps me remember.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I've got some post-COVID stuff that, the long term. I didn't have it that I remember that I had any symptoms, but I'm having.
Doesn't matter.
And yeah, I think it must have been asymptomatic because I'm forgetting, and I'm just not concentrating. I feel badly. I'll say it publicly in the group. I'm just not contributing the way I was supposed to. And I'm having trouble synthesizing and concentrating, and it's disappointing for me, but I'm trying.
That's why I'm trying hard not to get it. You don't know if you have it sometimes.
Well, that's the thing. And I was so careful, but
There's studies now that show 1 in 5 people could have significant long COVID symptoms.
Yeah, I've
So
seen
whether
that.
you're asymptomatic or not, that's the.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So I don't know. I decided to get a serological test and my doctor said that if it doesn't come out that I had it, he's going to do other stuff. But I'm tired. I'm sick of being tired all the time and not doing my writing the way I'm supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
but we will get over it and we will keep going.
Hello.
Hey, Amy.
Made it finally.
Any
Ah.
wild animals in the car?
Not this time. No wolves this time. But yeah, no, today was just another class and now we're here. I think
You know,
smaller group.
about being with a wolf last time, I think if there's any group you could be in, the people say, oh, I understand, it's okay. I think
Right. Oh yeah, sure, you can be late. Yeah, no, it's a good any kind of animal thing.
Yeah,
I know it's a good group to understand.
we
Yeah,
get each other. Yeah.
absolutely.
Debbie makes it this time. She sent me a message that she felt really guilty because she missed out and she was really upset.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Yeah, I thought more people said they were coming. So
I know Meg is coming. She's
yeah.
not here yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recording, Amy. I remember this time.
Yeah, I saw that. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody else coming in?
Okay. Okay.
And Meg. Okay, she's coming now too.
Okay.
Javier wrote me and said he doesn't think he's going to be coming.
Okay.
Hello.
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 Okay.
Do we have any occupational therapists, for instance, in the group?
I was one.
Oh, okay, good. So you're going to bring that point of view. This is good. I'm thinking of all the different things that we're talking about, yet we don't necessarily have representatives from that group.
I think there's another one too, but I'm not sure who that is. Seems to me there might be somebody else.
Yeah, well, Melissa Winkle is one, and she's on the broader committee, so she'll
Right.
look it over too.
Yeah.
So
Right, but I thought there was somebody else in
mhm.
our little cohort,
Yeah,
or maybe
Funny.
not.
I admitted Meg and then she's not here.
Meg's right
Hi
there.
there. I've just arrived. Hi.
Oh, wait,
sorry I'm
there
so
you
late.
are. Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
I had to push one over. Okay. Oh, it's cold where you are. I'm
It is.
seeing you with your coat on.
It's
Down in
freezing,
the
and look-
southern hemisphere.
Oh,
Yeah, that's funny.
it is funny, isn't it? I'm
No.
freezing and you're all warm.
It always seems weird because it's just interesting because I think you guys celebrate the holidays like whatever the winter holidays in the summer and ours are the winter, or is that how?
Yeah. June, July, August is our flat out winter. Yeah.
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 Wow.
So do
And
I.
our
South
January
America.
and February is our beautiful hot time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I came to see you, Meg, in September, I froze my head off.
Yeah, it was, and
Yeah.
plus where I live is an hour and a half out of Melbourne, which is, Victoria's always very seasonal, like,
Mhm.
and unpredictable. It's probably a little bit more like Canada or something from what I can gather without all the snow. But, we're really, really cold.
I noticed.
Yeah. 6 months of the year. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, so are
Yeah.
we, but so
It's
And
not
I-
the marketed Australia vibe, is it?
No.
I
No,
think
no.
of-
We're meant
You
to be
guys-
sunny and warm, like Queensland.
Yeah.
But it's like you guys celebrating Christmas, you know, the Christmas trees in the snow, but it's really in the hottest time of your year.
Yes, except in Melbourne, where I live, it was often raining as a child at Christmas. So, you know, in Victoria, it's just, you know, it's not really hot until January and February. That's our hot 2
Yeah.
months in country Victoria. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no one else seems to be coming. Does anyone know of somebody else who meant to come?
Mm-mm. Nope.
If I
So,
had Debbie's phone number, I'd call her, but I don't.
mhm. Yeah, I don't either. So, well, then it'll be probably a shorter meeting then. Um,
Which won't be a bad thing. We might be able to, you know, smaller groups are always easy to hear from, but we
mhm.
lose some of the richness. So it's a pros and cons.
Yeah, time to make some decisions. We can make some decisions and just say, well, yeah, that was the meeting. You
I-
weren't there.
Agree with this 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up one issue. I was sure I had written it somewhere, but again, with my brain fog that I'm going through, I can't find where I wrote it. But is there a reason why in the animal assisted education, it has to be split between elementary school, junior high school, or university? It's all academic learning. Okay,
Yeah,
I
it
think
doesn't have, yeah,
that
it
just
doesn't
makes
have,
it
It'd be
unnecessarily,
easier, right?
Yeah.
Less detailed.
yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's read any of my suggested specific categories types, but I think just teacher or you know, whatever it is that is the sort of the majority kind of word for someone that's a professional that's actually got a degree
Mhm.
and doing teaching, but whatever that word would be. But we haven't got there yet to be able to look at the specific terms yet.
And we're talking not about teaching subject matter in AAIs, but using animal assisted interventions with a therapy animal to promote academics, right? To
Yeah.
promote
No.
education and
Academic goals.
classroom lessons,
yeah, academic goals, yeah.
right? Right.
The process can be completely different
Okay,
depending on people's training and their
Right.
approach.
right.
And they're going.
But that it includes a learning goal and education goal facilitated by a teacher.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
So
that
that-
incorporates animals.
So the
Yes.
teachers don't only teach academics, right? We do social emotional learning. You know, like we
Yeah.
do a lot of different things. Like I don't want to necessarily tie it into just academic content. I think
And it
that's
would
too
be
narrow.
included. Yes. Okay.
It's one of the
okay.
things. There's the academic.
Yeah.
So how do you say the difference between
Well,
social learning
I
and
don't know.
psychoeducation?
I don't know whether we want to get into the specifics now. I don't know if we're at that point, whether we might need to just back up and get to the other parts that we need to decide on. But I think once we get to, okay, once we get to the discussion of that, I think we need to vote on specific terms about whether we clarify what we're talking about, like psychoeducation, teaching, you know, etc. Once we get the broad categories, then we can get the specific categories that we can vote on, I think.
How much of a disagreement is there on the broad categories?
I don't think we've got any anymore, do we?
Nope, not on the broad categories. That part, we're
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
What are you
The other-
calling the broad categories then?
The animal assisted treatment, animal assisted education, animal assisted support programs, animal assisted services as the umbrella term. Those were,
Okay. Okay. I
Those are
thought,
the ones-
okay,
Agreed.
Service programs, right? Animal assisted service programs.
No, just animal assisted
Practices, right.
services.
animal assisted services is the top, and then,
Services?
At
yeah.
top.
Yeah. I wanna get
Education,
home right
treatment,
enough,
and support.
yeah.
Support, right, support services, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Could you share, Amy, the
Yeah,
or
I'm not
For me,
sure
it's
that I
easier.
have,
to follow with the?
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
I want to make sure
Sure.
I've got the most recent one too. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so animals, oh, so this one says animal assisted support services and the others just said animal assisted support.
Right,
I
yeah,
think
that's,
services was just taken off because it was, yeah, okay,
animal assisted support.
yeah,
Right, okay.
right, because they're all services and there's animal assisted services at the top, so that kind of would
Mhm.
be a little
can't make it-
confusing. Okay, good.
I'm gonna make it bigger and I can't do it.
Yeah, bigger would be good.
I'm trying, if it keeps going the opposite, I'm hitting like the plus and it's going the opposite way.
Yay, there we go.
Hold on, I gotta somehow, I want to get rid of this. Okay, there we go. And then I can go kind of, it's very particular. Either has to be like giant or. See, I want like a 150. I don't want to do.
I can see that.
Control. Yeah. Well, then I gotta just scroll around.
That's
So, okay.
good. Needs to go back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like the things that we were talking about, I pulled them up, I thought. Oh yeah. What we had voted on, and like there were many that we were not able to
Right.
find agreement. So those were the things, like, well, and I can share this one instead.
Well, we have concluded the animal assisted services, AAT, AAE, and AAS. The blue, the green, and the orange headings. That's
Yeah.
confirmed. Okay, great.
Yeah. Yep, that part's confirmed.
Great.
And then when the second terminology vote that I sent out,
Yeah.
this was the, we had
Mhm.
4 thought it should be put under AAS, which is the support, or support. 7 said standalone. 2 said under HAI, and 2 said they're very different from HAI and AAI. And then these were the questions. So,
Mhm.
you know,
That's right.
so that was one that was not agreed upon. So are there
Yeah.
thoughts on
So
that?
can I ask Amy, what are we looking for? Because I thought if we get a majority, we would go with that.
Well, I don't
What
think
is the normal process and how do we kind of move forward?
Majority, yes, but this to me wasn't, you have like 7, but then you also have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are saying no. So it's not a
Yeah.
majority. So that's all, if we could find a majority, that would be like this one where it says 13 are true and 2 are false. Great. We don't even have
Yeah.
to talk about that one. But the ones that are super close,
Mhm.
we were just going to have an opportunity for people to kind of talk through it a little bit. And we can limit,
Mhm.
we could say like, let's just do 10 minutes per topic so that we don't spend,
Mhm.
2 hours on one topic and then
Yeah.
we don't move along.
Mhm.
So are there any,
I guess I would like to understand why 7 people think it belongs, at least in some way, under AAS, because to me, it's not animal assisted interventions. It's animals assisting people in their day-to-day lives. It's very, very different than a professionally directed animal assisted intervention. So I don't understand putting it as a standalone, and maybe somebody can try to explain
I
that.
think a standalone alongside animal assisted services means that it's outside of animal assisted services and it's next to it.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's like,
in the
so this,
graphic,
there might be confusion. But the graphics, it shows it outside of animal assisted services, doesn't it?
no, well, according to the vote, it's going to be like, here's the animal assisted support, and then it would be listed within the, oh, I see what you're saying, like a fourth category.
Fourth, it sounds like it's a fourth category.
Yeah, and that's
No,
why
I
is
thought
it-
no, I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was next to animal assisted services, that there was animal assisted services, assistance animals, and the human animal interaction. I thought that's what standalone meant.
yeah. Well, I thought it was, yeah. We had talked about it being like within the graphic, yeah, under HAI on the other.
Down below.
Right, which is a standalone kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
do you want to just do a
One
little
of-
drawing, Amy, in the little things so that everyone gets a
Mhm.
consensus understanding what standalone means?
Yep.
Yeah, one of the other reasons why for me standalone makes sense, because what about cadaver dogs? What about drug sniffing dogs? What about sheepdogs? What about guard dogs? All of those dogs provide service for people.
Mhm.
So in a way, they're much more similar to a real service dog.
Hmm.
And,
Right.
you know, that's a separate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's where
Right.
it fit on that other page, like not under the AAS umbrella at all, but under
Exactly.
the HAI umbrella.
Right.
And so Amy
Right.
and Michael, when you're answering their vote form with that view, because that's what I'm asking, some people might be having different definitions about what
Mhm.
standalone means.
Mhm, that's right.
Where would you vote, Michael? What did you tick? So that, or Amy, if you want to put in the, because I think it's confusing that it's off the page, but people are thinking that it's still connected under
Well, yeah,
AIS.
yeah. I'll pull up because I don't have page 2 on that one. So let me just pull it up real quick. I think it's here.
May I ask something?
Yes.
I agree that with the use of animals as support, for instance, with health, but what about the animals that assist with reading programs, like says in the diagram? I think that is not.
Right. Yeah, that's so I don't know if you could see this here, but like there was the animal assisted, this is not the most recent, this is just the one that I had, but animal assisted services had our categories, and then the HAI that was kind of separate had the assistance dogs,
Yeah.
fields of studies, observation
Mhm.
programs, general interactions that were not classified as AAI. So it meant that the
Yeah.
assistance dogs were not considered under the same umbrella as animal assisted services.
And that makes sense.
It
to
does.
me. That's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
maybe we
So
could
vote.
revote.
So it sounds like
again
there
or
might be a
something.
consensus, but the
I
way
know,
it was,
I'm like, oh, that was so
tallied.
much quicker. Yeah.
yeah.
So, are
Okay.
there-
Would that include all kinds of working animals then, as Michael was saying? I mean, you have search and rescue dogs, you have whatever, right? You have drug sniffing dogs, you have.
Right.
Military and police dogs.
Right,
Yeah,
because those are
exactly.
working dogs, and technically service dog, assistance dogs are working dogs,
Exactly.
Mhm.
technically.
Yep.
So it's all kinds of working animals.
Don't forget the
I would
mine
think
rat.
Yeah, so yeah, do we,
Those could be added under that purple column. Yeah.
mhm, that's a good point. So placement and training, and then, so this was, say, assistance dogs.
And I wonder if it should be changed from dogs to animals.
It should, yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, and then, so it was working dogs, right? That was
Working animals.
working animals, sorry,
Mhm.
working animals. Yeah,
Would it be different between assistant animals and service animals? We are just not using a service animal because it's confusing?
Well, somebody else, I think somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they are part of ADI and they said they do not recognize assistance / service. It's service is under assistance. So
And I think, I think they look at service as being like mobility assistance animals, pretty much exclusively, and that things like the hearing animals, the seizure alert, that those are considered assistance. I think that's why they separate it
then-
out or something.
And then you have emotional support animals now.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much confusion in the literature. I mean, yeah, this is so nice to get this. Wow.
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure everybody here has read 100 times they're calling something a therapy animal when it's actually a service animal, or vice versa.
all the time,
So,
all the time.
all the time.
Or they say, oh, this is my service dog, who's also my emotional support dog and also a therapy dog because he's so good with everyone.
Right, right,
no,
right, right.
No,
right.
yeah, you can't do that.
Oh.
Can't do that, but it happens a lot. So
Yeah.
are we all comfortable? Is there anyone opposed? Anyone not okay with assistance animals being under human animal interactions? Mariana,
I'm good with that.
you're okay? Okay. I didn't know if
Yes,
they,
yes, I agree.
all right, everyone else, raise your hand so I can. Okay, Miyako, are you okay with where?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael, are you okay with it over here? Under HAI? All right, we have consensus,
Yes.
100%. Very nice, very nice.
Amy,
And I know.
could I just clarify, somebody just said emotional support dogs, I think, or support animals, sorry. I think there's going to be, it wouldn't fit under assistance animals because of the different definition and all the
Right.
legal complications. So where would they fit? They would probably need to fit under the HAI somewhere. If we're going to be inclusive, where do we be inclusive, or do we just leave certain things out that we don't know enough about, or that we don't want to include, or whatever?
Right, and we can talk about that. Like, I mean, in my own personal opinion,
It's pet ownership.
yeah, it falls under pet ownership. That where the animal is allowed to live where pets are not allowed. Like, that's the only advantage, right? There's no special training. The dogs or animals are not required to perform any tasks. That there's no evaluation process, registration process. You don't even, there is nothing that's formalized. So that's what I consider it. Yeah, pet ownership. Anybody have any other thoughts about it?
Yeah, as long as it lives somewhere so that it's not confusing by the time we recommend.
Got it. So we'll put that under, so that would fall. Sorry, Laura, you had something?
Well, I was just gonna say, I wonder about changing the heading of the purple column from assistance animals to something maybe not working, but other working animals, or something to that effect. Since we have assistance animals two blocks down, that it's more than assistance animals. It's,
Yeah.
it might be better to say working animals, and then ESAs might fit under there.
But they're not. I mean, really, like, what are?
Yeah,
there's-
I agree. Yeah. The
Yeah,
only
they are
thing I'm
not
kinda
walking
thinking-
dogs. Like, sorry, they are not walking animals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're not. So if we use work, yeah, okay. I get the point. I usually try to just, when I'm trying to explain to people what therapy animals versus service animals versus ESAs are, they've always kind of fallen close together, but no, I'm good with it under pet ownership too.
I'm positive that we'll get some flack
Yeah.
from it,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty. I mean, I don't have a problem. I feel pretty confident in it being in this place.
And it's really more accurate.
Can I ask
No.
about the term therapy animals? And I'm wondering whether therapy animals belong under working animals, if that's a term that we choose to continue to use.
Right, because technically they are pets also, right? So, but they're also working. So
Well,
What a-
and
how about
also some
other-
people
other
will
working
work with
animals?
working animal. Some people will include working animals in their AAT, E, and S, and some people won't include working animals. But if it's under working animals, it means that working animals have to have very specific training and ongoing support and et cetera, which is where that kind of category would fit theoretically.
I feel like therapy dogs are described on the chart very differently in different bits. In like the the dogs visiting hospitals, that's therapy dog, right? Dogs visiting schools, that's therapy dogs. So like I feel like we are kind of taking that apart and put them in a different parts on the first chart. And like I feel like putting the therapy animal in there again is a little bit redundant.
true, that's true. Because the other thing I think about with
I can I just say one more thing, that they do have a different expected training pathway, and people are trying to have an agreement on their training and on their certification, for example. Then they need to be recognised somewhere that's not to do with the animal assisted services, but actually, if that term is to be continued, it just makes me a little bit curious about where it all fits.
Right. The only thing I think about with the therapy dog, though, is that when we're talking the working animals don't really have a choice. They don't really have consent, right? The dog who's sniffing bombs, he doesn't get to decide if he doesn't feel good that day and doesn't want to sniff bombs, or the assistance dog has to work no matter what. The therapy dogs, we say they get to decide if they want to work that day. If they don't want to be a part of the session, they can go lay down, or the rat or whomever it is, so that they have a little more agency than I think the working animals do.
Well, that's not the case in Australia. The therapy horses, they don't have any choice, and I don't work with therapy animals because I would not ever include animals that don't have consent. But all the therapy animals that are included, they have a job and they are trained. And they're not included because of their species-specific behaviour. They're included because of their trained obedience behaviour, related behaviour.
I think the problem also, Meg, is that this first chart that is on the screen right now is written very human-centric. What services, right, is provided, either therapy, education, or support. The second chart is more animal-centric in the way that what role animals play. And I think that's where like it gets a little bit maybe confusing.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the first page.
Amy, I was just gonna. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Amy, I would be careful with the whole autonomy and consent, because we don't know enough about the working animals in other fields, or at least I don't. What happens when a bomb sniffing dog has a bad day? A lot of these behaviors can't be forced. The dog has to willingly want to, and I would expect that there is some way of interpreting when the dog does not want to do it, but I'm guessing.
Good point.
And even in the therapy field, I feel like there's a lot of therapy animals that really aren't given choice and agency, but we're striving
It depends on the approach of the therapist.
Exactly.
Their parents
Or the
are doing
handler,
more, let's say more CBT stuff, and or, you know, talk about the AAE doing more psychoeducational stuff. There's a lot of obedience stuff, obedience training. There's a lot of having the child teach the animal as part of the program. It's very confusing. I know I love to say, people who know me well know my sentence, I don't want a therapy dog with me, I want a dog with me in therapy.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem that I have. And of course, you know, if visiting dogs, calling them therapy dogs is a major confusion.
Yeah.
That's why I'm extremely against in the animal assisted support section of ever calling them therapy dogs. You get people say, oh, I have
Exactly.
a therapy dog with me. I'm called the therapy team. I must be a therapist. And that's why I
Yeah.
have to be very
But-
careful with that term.
Nancy and everything, I think we need to be realistic, you know. For example, some brand names, Band-Aid, Xerox, become sort of the cover
Xerox.
name for a product,
Mhm.
even though it's a very specific brand. I think we're going to swim totally uphill on therapy dog. I think the general public
Oh,
will
yeah.
continue to call them that. That's
Totally.
something we need to sort of live with, but we, in our own mind, have categories. That's just kind of my sense on that.
Yeah, and that's not there is another group that's tackling that anyway, so
Okay, good.
we don't have to even address that, but it's very true.
I have one more suggestion on the purple column that may add some clarity. If instead of just working animals, if it was other working animals, because therapy animals or whatever you want to call them are pretty much implied as partners on the most of the first page. And so if we, you know, if they were kind of, you know, considered in that area, then other working animals would be maybe more accurate
Right.
for the second page.
Then I think about, okay, again, if we're just going to throw out how people might interpret, would they say like, I have whatever horses that are pulling machinery to clean out the fields or whatever, right? Like that's a working horse, but not in the way that we're talking about it. So
Right.
how?
But it is HAI.
True.
So.
Right.
Okay. All right, then are we good with other working animals here instead? Is everyone okay with this?
Isn't there a group then,
I
you
think
know, you
so,
just mentioned working on that issue?
Therapy animal? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we can sort of, you know.
Yeah. So we
And
can.
can I ask Amy, is there any indication at this point? Are they talking about kind of teasing out animals that are part of therapy sessions from animals that do more social emotional visits, meet and greets and that kind of thing? Are they considering that?
I am not sure, actually. They were,
Okay.
I know that group was supposed to meet, well, we were supposed to meet 2 Fridays ago. Just everyone was going to give an update on their group, and then
Oh, okay.
our timing got all messed up, so we didn't. But we do have a meeting set up soon.
Okay.
forget when
Just
it is,
curious.
but yeah, that we'll be able to at least have some update on that. All right, so the next question, hold on, let me go back to the makes me unshare and share every time, but okay, so that's good. Then the next one that was therapeutic horsemanship. So you have 3 under AAS, 6 under AAE, and 4 under other. And then these are the comments. Should be AAT. Someone said, if we translate horsemanship as a horse-human interaction, I cannot understand the question. It is like if I use sports or video games as a component of a therapy or an educational program, the inclusion of the component does not change the work you develop. I have liaised with TR facilitators, and they clearly believe and made a strong case for AAE, not AA support, not AAS. If it is professionally directed with documented goals, it would be AAE or AAT. So,
Wow. Yeah, I had
So I'm wondering whether we could just, you know, like some of us know about therapeutic horsemanship, some of us don't. So I'm wondering whether the people that know about therapeutic horsemanship might like to say a couple of things, because I don't, we could talk a long time about explaining what it is and where it lives and why it's not usually referred under AAT, for example. So yeah, I'm just wondering if Miyako or others, I'm happy to contribute.
So therapeutic horsemanship, what you call it really depends on who does it, right? So like if the therapist actually do that and the instruction of horsemanship is a part of the treatment and tied to their goals, and like that can be done, and then that's therapy. Typically, the therapeutic riding instructors are certified professionals who go through some kind of certification in different countries. And their training really includes building lesson plan, assessing the, the clients, abilities, progress, different things. So I feel like if the certified professional teach horsemanship and it's not by therapists and not therapy, that should be educational, because there is very specific goal-oriented, a process that's involved. And the therapeutic horsemanship goal is never equestrian goals, really. It's all tied to people's, their, life function goals.
Mm-hmm.
So would it make sense to put it in like kind of multiple places, but like depending on like whether like, here where it's like educator led or therapist led? So it would be like therapist led.
It's usually not led by a therapist.
Not by therapy. Okay.
It's the difference between equine assisted psychotherapy and equine assisted learning. Or let's say another thing that I don't know how much, but I did see it on the PATH when I checked last night on the PATH site. There's equine assisted therapeutic riding, or whatever you call it, but for physical disabilities that would not be under education and it would not be under therapy. That's why I was wondering if that would be in the support, but it's specific. If it's specific for physical disabilities, it certainly wouldn't be education.
Right. But Nancy, I think what happens with that really is that when you work with people with physical disabilities, it still is what's the end goal? Like, unless it's occupational therapy, physical therapy, the end goal is to build confidence, build social, goals. Like, it's not necessarily always the physical part is the goal. And I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But I feel like horsemanship, if it's done by the therapist, it's the equine, equine assisted psychotherapy or therapy. If it's done by the instructor, I think it should fall under the education. And if it's strictly rehab, and then that has to be done by OT or PT, it's not the instructors who will do it.
I know at least in
And
Israel.
what do you call that? If it is OT or PT.
If it's OT, it's OT.
But they're not. But it's not done by an OT. And Miyako,
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. That a lot of times it could be rehab, but not done by an OT. I know here in Israel, at least there's, somebody has a high school education, they take 10 months of learning. They are a certified therapeutic riding instructor. And they also do, work with, let's say, children who have problems with balance issues, with muscle tone, and different disabilities like that. And they certainly do not have the education of an OT, yet they're not doing any learning. They're working on physical disability stuff.
Right.
But I guess
Nancy, you are right. And Miyako, the one thing I wanted to throw in there is that depending on the focus of the PATH program, the instructors can shift. There are some PATH programs that do trail riding and outdoor adventure and overnight camping, and that's guided by a therapeutic riding instructor. There are
Mhm.
some that focus on showing and competition for people with disabilities, and that's led by a therapeutic riding instructor who in that case functions more as a coach. So Amy, I think you said something about having it in different places. In a
Yes.
way that
Mm.
makes sense too.
Yeah. I agree
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
fair. No, that's fair.
It sounds to me like there isn't really even a consensus as far as what those terms mean. I mean, way back,
There's
it used to
not.
be if
There's
OT
not.
did it, it was
Yeah.
called hippotherapy, which I guess isn't used anymore. And I didn't know that, but I don't understand. Yeah.
There's not consistency around how animal assisted treatment is
Right.
done. There's not consistency around how animal assisted education is done. There's not consistency around how animal assisted support is done. It varies from approaches, models, countries, cultures, and differences.
Right.
So we can't go down that rabbit hole of consistency, because actually that's what we're working with, is a really inconsistent and field. But I think what Miyako and Michael were just talking about then is that we have some education goals and we might have some support goals. And so maybe, but the other thing I just wanted to add is in Australia, we have a massive area called Riding for the Disabled Australia. And
Mhm.
Riding for the Disabled is probably your version. Well, I don't know what your different countries' terminology is, but I'm wondering where that sits under the human animal interventions, or, like assistance animals, because they're functioning with equestrian goals. So I wonder whether we need, equestrian goals, education goals, support goals, and then they sit under different areas under the S, E, or HAI.
Okay. Well, I still don't know if I understand the difference between therapeutic horsemanship and therapeutic riding and hippotherapy and equine assisted. I thought I kind of knew those maybe, but I had hoped I could get some clarification. So I don't really know where it fits.
Hey, Laura.
I can't vote.
Hey,
Yeah.
Laura.
Yes.
There is a document that's uploaded to our file. That's the consensus terminology by the equine and Pass and other equine field that's published last year. And that should give you a little bit of a clarity.
I think I actually started looking at that and found it more confusing. So I was going to ask the group, but okay, I'll look back at that. I think I saved that.
Laura, I don't know if it helps, but really the difference is in hippotherapy, yes, as a term is being replaced, but it comes down to who does the activity, what are their goals. And if it's a medical professional with a license to practice medicine and they're utilizing the horse, then it is a therapy. Anybody else, whether they're called an instructor or a coach, they cannot do therapy.
Okay.
That's as far as we've got. And so
the problem is the word,
Here,
what
I'm
becomes
sorry,
really
here-
slippery is the word therapeutic,
Right.
because therapeutic often implies therapy, but it's not.
It's not.
And
Right.
It's not.
there, there is a, so anyway.
that's why that's why the word is dubious. It's like therapy animals, it's like therapeutic
Yep.
horsemanship, it's like hippotherapy. It's like we're trying to, in a way, get rid of terminology that is misleading, but as we're all acknowledging, it's very hard because people are very attached to certain terminology.
Yeah, and just to give you a little bit of a process. So I was in the consensus document building stage, and we did spend a lot of time. If we talk categorize writing as adaptive writing, but adaptive writing, adaptive sport, really implies that the sports in some way is adapted so that people with physical disability can actually do, in a sense that they, adapt the, equipment. And there were good enough, good numbers of people in the meeting who really felt strongly that adaptive riding doesn't really describe what is called therapeutic riding in a whole because of that.
Okay,
So we did struggle with that.
okay. Well, I'll look at that paper again. Thank you. Yeah,
I
thanks for,
want to share that in my country, all people says equine therapy, and in the team, you couldn't find any professional in charge. So many times there is someone that have a disability and also be a rider of horses and began to work with equine therapy. So
Yeah.
for me, it's very difficult to change the mind of the people because they think equine therapy for all the things you can do with the horse, and also with people that don't have any education about this. So it's very confused here, that terminology.
I'm not sure I'm so scared of trying to fight that though. Because it's sort of like giving up and say, people want to say a therapy dog. Okay, it's a therapy dog. We're going to give up on it. The confusion is going to keep going. And I think it all depends on the explanation that we're giving and educating the public, especially educating the people who are doing it. The public, you know, the newspapers are going to write what they're going to write. But if we can get the people doing it to realize the what's going on and what they're doing, and have them respect what they're doing with the new names, I think that would be really meaningful. And we have to do a lot explanation, re-education with good explanations that sometimes you give the right example and people go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. You're right. If you give the proper example of the confusion, then sometimes you can make change.
Okay. I take
That's
it.
my approach.
Thank you.
So what are we doing with it?
I'm happy to defer to the people who understand the differences, because I do not, but I found that article, Miyoko, so I'll look again at it.
I'm wondering whether
that.
people have just
Thank
made a
you.
case for therapeutic riding fitting underneath education support and equestrian, HAI for equestrian goals. I'm wondering whether we can actually include it saying with an asterisk distinction defined by the facilitator.
Yes. The facilitator and the goal. Combination between the facilitator and the goal. Maybe.
And then I have a little bit of a question about this process that's related to it. Once we come up with certain things, are we going to reach out to some stakeholders and ask their input? I think the Pet Partners has a big piece in dogs and dog world. Pass and some other organization really have stakes in the equine world, and I wonder if sharing the information with them and working with them will be a part of the process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If they are not on board, and if they say well, I don't agree with it, and we are not gonna endorse it, we are not gonna really recognize it, and then this whole effort is gonna go really south in a way.
Right. Well, we do plan to share with additional stakeholders just to be sure, but the people, I don't know, the people we are looking at doing that, I don't think are the people, well, I'm just saying, I think they're more amenable to change. So if they don't like it, I don't think, again, I'm thinking like Aubrey or Risa or, Phil or anybody in that area, they've all been pretty amenable to the idea of changing. Yeah, well, I don't like this. I think that it's more of a discussion instead of just we're going to shut it down. That's my hope. But the other thing that we'll do is if it's just one person who's kind of an outlier, we're still writing them up as recommendations, right? Like this is still we're recommending this. We'll have, we'll go try to publish it. We'll share it with ISAS, Ohio, AAI, anywhere that we can kind of just get it out there and hopefully start to get more agreement. And then once that happens, then I know they were talking about having like memos of understanding or memos of agreement that they will start using these terms. So
Amy, can I ask the group, where does riding for the disabled fit? Is that what people call, because that's different to therapeutic riding, I think. And where does that fit in our chart? And can we put that in there somewhere?
I think that's
Or is
already in
that-
the orange area, isn't it?
that one says right here, horsemanship services for rehab, improving physical functioning, vaulting, former therapeutic riding.
Okay, and does any other country have a term that says riding for the disabled? Or is it just Australia? So we might be out of date. Yeah.
Meg, no, I don't think so. I think, Meg, the way that works is there has been a real gap between the British model and the US model. And the British model, of course, was adopted in many countries that had a close association with Great Britain. So riding for the disabled is still very much used in the UK. And in
Okay,
some
so
other
it's the
countries.
UK. Mhm, all right. Yeah, so we probably should have that term riding for the disabled in the chart somewhere, Amy, would just be
Yeah.
my recommendation.
Yeah, I think isn't that what's in the orange already? Just a better name?
No, it wasn't, the terminology wasn't in there, no.
No, I'm just saying isn't a better name than what is written in there? The rehab,
No, I think it's additional to that.
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so so we'll say, I'll make this.
And then let me just ask if that horsemanship in the orange is for people with the disabled, does that include like if it is an OT or PT that it's in orange,
No.
not over under,
No,
why
no.
not under AAT?
No, then it's a AAT.
Oh, it would be AAT. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it should be added over on that.
I don't know.
Well, I guess it
I think
doesn't
that's
need to be
just
added.
included under OT work
Yeah,
or
I think I see that.
physiotherapy
Yeah,
or
and we don't have it.
physical therapy.
Yep.
Do you want it, so it should not be here?
No, that's where it should be. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Because if it's facilitated by a physio or an OT, it would be under the blue section,
gotcha. Okay,
under physio.
got it. Perfect.
Just as a quick thing, if AAS is animal assisted services, AAS and also support, didn't we talk about it being
Oh.
AASP? Animal
Yes.
assisted
Mhm.
support programs or,
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
put
what-
the
Just animal
acronyms in
assisted
there, Amy.
programs or,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like
Put
it
the
should be in there.
acronyms so that, you know how we talked about AASP, you were
ASP.
suggesting, Amy, for
Yeah.
support?
Can we
Yeah,
come up
I don't,
with,
you can't see that I'm doing. See, all this time I thought I had my screen up.
You
So,
did. No,
Yeah, okay.
you
you
did.
do, you do,
Okay.
you do.
I was making sure.
Yeah.
can we
Okay.
come up with a 3-word acronym for the orange animal assisted support? So it's not an S,
But that's
it's
what I
not
just
a-
said, ASP.
It's
but if it's 3 words,
AASP.
can we come up with 3 words instead of support programs?
Right.
Yeah,
Are
they
there 3
programs?
words we could use instead? Could it be animal assisted programs? No, because that would be everything.
Mhm.
I think it's enough to distinguish in the research if it says AAS, it's animal assisted services. If it says AASP, it's animal assisted support.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
I like keeping AAP for animal assisted psychotherapy. Please don't change it. That's me.
okay, all right, so there's that then. Everyone's comfortable with that, or,
Yep.
okay, let me just go back to this. Okay, so this one we don't have to touch because HAI is listed separate, great. The term for animal handler should be animal specialist. There's an equal tie right there.
Mhm.
So
just
there were
doesn't-
others.
Go ahead.
I emailed my response to that, so I don't know
Oh, here,
if anyone read it or not, but yeah,
yeah, go ahead and repeat it. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
Um,
Unless I tried to copy and paste the answers
Yeah,
in
no.
here, but I may not have gotten them all.
No worries. I can't get out of this view, but I think there was a couple of, there we are, exit full screen.
Mhm.
I was just saying that there's one thought was that if the animal handler, okay, so I'll just start again. I thought the word handler it has professional sort of ethical complications going forward around objectifying the animal that's being handled. And I think that a lot of people that have kind of more contemporary views about animals and animal rights and like the term specialist, but I can see the complication around what it implies in the handling, because if we use the term animal specialist, I'm expecting that they're an animal trainer, that they've actually got some qualifications in their country, that legally and ethically they could put a case to the court that they're an animal specialist, they're an animal trainer, they've done some training and education in. So I think animal specialist is the more correct term. If it's used by people that aren't actually trained, I actually think they should be called assistants, and rather than animal handlers, because they're not animal specialists. So there was a couple of issues that I raised in the email.
A specialist, to me, really implies some very specialized additional knowledge and education beyond, I don't want to say just handling, because of course, to be a good handler, there's a lot involved. But yeah, specialist, I don't think fits, but I also agree that handler does sound kind of utilitarian and
I just know that in the equine world, there's people, of course, that still use the term horse handler. But the people that are more contemporary and, more of the equitation science and more of the movement, progressive movement, the term handler is it's becoming quite outdated because of its ethical implications.
that makes sense.
But it's still used.
Yeah. Well, it's used in the United States, I think, pretty much exclusively. I had suggested partner. I mean, we use that already so much because of pet partners. Handlers consider themselves to be partners to the animal, and whether you're a professional incorporating your own animal into practice, or you're a handler of a volunteer team, partner it sounds nice, supportive, amenable, and accurate.
It could maybe we need to distinguish between an animal partner and an animal specialist, so that an animal specialist is a professional and they're brought in to support a service. For example, if I was bringing in a horse specialist or an animal specialist, they would have specific training in animal studies, animal training, and I would bring them in to supplement my thing. But if I was, maybe what we're talking about is a term that is not a trained animal person. So they've got very, they might have done a little weekend workshop or something. I'm not sure what you guys are all referring to.
Yeah, but I think, Meg, I think we need to be careful here, because if you are with a volunteer organization and your dog is cleared through whatever process to go into a hospital, and you're visiting an ill person on a trip, you're a specialist. I mean, you just are. So specialist to me leaves it open enough, and we shouldn't define specialist. It's just a person who works with an animal in a, social educational context.
And they
within
have
the scope
specific
of
training.
And they have some specific training, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Google defines a specialist as a person highly skilled in a specific and restricted field. That's the first definition that pops up. And I don't know, Laura, I'd be interested in hearing what you think about specialist versus handler versus partner.
Me,
Yeah.
there's something about the word specialist I don't like, but I can't quite tell you what it is, and I don't have a better suggestion. And then as far as handler, I understand the objection. I don't know if that's something that's thought of more in the academic community than in the everyday community. For example, I don't know if the average person finds a problem with the word handler. I think those of you who study this professionally are more sensitive to some of the terminology. Plus if we start to look at criteria, right, who determines what the criteria is, right? So I'm a Pet Partners volunteer, right? I passed their training. That might not be very much. As a volunteer, I also took classes at the University of Denver, right? And I did some of the certificate programs in human animal interactions and canine assisted intervention specialists. And so what do you decide? How do you decide what someone's qualifications are, right? I've gone above what a lot of volunteers do in their training, but I don't have a degree in something like someone who, right?
You do have the education and training. And I'll just throw it.
I'm not sure how you, that's why I had two words, volunteer and professional.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what the criteria for professional would be then.
Well, and the same thing that Laura did for looking at, if you Google handler, then the dictionary definition number 2 is a person who trains or has charge of an animal.
Right. So, and I think the average person still thinks of the word handler. There's nothing wrong with it. I think there's more sensitivity academically, and I use that word because I can't think of a better word, right?
Or
as far
maybe,
as
and
terms.
also in the equine field, there's more sensitivity around the word handler. Yeah.
Maybe. But again, you guys doing more professional work. I mean, when I rode horses and owned horses, and nobody ever had a problem with the word handler. So it's for example, when I say I use animals in my work, I know some people would take offense, right? At the term use, I'm using animals, right? Yeah. I mean, no disrespect, disregard for the animal. It's just the term that an average person would use. But anyways, I think with a lot of these things, how are we deciding what's a specialist and what's not a specialist? What's the criteria? There's a wide range of criteria, from volunteers who are barely trained to volunteers with additional training to professionals to people with advanced degrees. And you might have an advanced degree in counseling, but what's your criteria? What do you have as far as animal? What are your animal skills, right?
Exactly.
I think partner would be a nice option. It would apply to any species, any level of handling.
Mariana, you had
any knowledge?
Yes, in Spanish, we said conductor, driver. For you, it's okay. In English, driver, perhaps.
Driver's what they do to cattle. Like when you take cattle across the country, like that's what a driver would be.
Or a car. People here would think of driving a car, driving a vehicle.
Yes. The meaning in Spanish is to go with. So
like to conduct.
Yes.
Wow.
It sounds like, handling, there can be very gentle handling too, but it sounds like the objection is that it's automatically kind of assumed that handler means harsh handling. And, you know, why is that? Because there can be very gentle,
Right.
even hands-on support.
Not that I
Do we even need to
necessarily
change
buy
it?
into it, but I think the issue with handling is objectifies the animal. The animal is an object that you do something to. You handle it.
Yeah,
That
I
would be my-
understand. Yeah.
So if you used the term partner, I would be a partner. I'm trying to think of how that would come into use practically, right? If you use the term partner instead of handler,
Mhm,
I'm an animal partner
mhm,
in what I do.
mhm.
Can I ask the people in the room that have degrees and professional quals and professional development in animal studies and as an animal trainer, is it offensive to use the term animal specialist for the broad range of what we're talking about? Yeah, let me just hear from the other perspective, because yeah, it would be interesting just to hear other views about the term animal specialist or animal handling too.
So I think that, you know, I have been really working really hard in this field to really frame everything, you know, like we do with animals in a relationship, right? Like we work with animals are not objects. But at the same time, as humans, we have responsibilities to facilitate. You know, like partner is a little bit problematic in the sense that we are never equal partners. We have more responsibility to keep everybody safe. That's a human, facilitation is a human responsibility. So I worried about that a little bit. But and then if we say handler, and like I guess like my worry really is that it really doesn't have any kind of relationship, you know, like it, right? Like handle, you know, like Michael said, like an object, and like that's not what we do, and like that's not what we are trying to put out into the world. You know, like this field is all about relationship and like how to work with the animals and like that bring to humans for well-being. And I just think that it's very counter, you know, like to that concept, you know, to use the word handle.
Mhm.
So we're facilitators more than handlers? Would you say we're facilitators?
Yeah,
Does
I
anyone, right, does anyone, like, could we do, just without it being a formal vote, could we do a vote on in the room what we prefer, you know, as of today in terms of handler and specialist?
Sure.
Just to get a lay of the land, because I'm just still not sure with everyone's share where everybody is.
Yeah, I just want to add that animal partner or animal assistant, I mean, to me grammatically, it sounds the animal is the partner and the animal is the assistant, as opposed to the assistant who's responsible for the animal. I mean, just grammatically, I think that might be a problem. I like the word responsible. I don't know how to make that fit. I myself have no problem with the word animal specialist. I actually think I voted for that, but maybe I don't understand the problematic issues around that, but that seems to be better than handler.
So would specialist apply to everybody who works with animals, or would there be criteria? As a volunteer, am I a specialist? As a professional, are you a specialist?
This is the complexity, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is why in the Netherlands they have like the level system, right? So like you're
Yes.
level 1 if you have like basic training with your animal, like as a handler. Then the second level I think is like the paraprofessional level where you have animal knowledge and some knowledge of the profession. And then there's like the, well, I don't know what they all are in specific, but they have the levels anyway. So
Yes.
and I think that the group agreed that they did not want to pursue any kind of level system. So I don't know.
And then we're back to this thing about professional or volunteer.
Yeah.
So it could be animal specialist volunteer, which isn't going to capture the paraprofessional. So yeah, it's tricky. I think it makes it really tricky under a animal specialist, but I think animal handler, I think, you know, an animal specialist might be offended using that term for
Yeah.
themselves and their work. I don't know, because I've never been hired as an animal specialist to do that and then been required to be thought about as an animal handler. So I can't say what that would be like, but
Well, and even
is-
even amongst professionals, do you professionals have criteria for what makes somebody a professional working with animals?
Mhm.
You know, are there criteria currently for what allows you to call yourself a professional
Yeah,
in
and
animal
well,
assist-
the way that we're calling professional means that you have professional licensure in an area like social work, like counseling,
Right.
like psychology,
Right.
like OT. That's the way that we've taken the word professional. That's where it gets complicated down in the levels. It's a little more complex.
Right, because
And I-
there's nothing saying that you have specialist training in working with animals in your practice, right?
Right.
Right.
And I
except a
think in
professional
Laura-
might have a degree. So
Laura, we just did a recent webinar on dogs in human services, and it is so clear that in a country like Austria, they have snap trap laws as to what the dog has to be able to do, what the handler has to be able to do, what kind of education they have. And in our country, you just are a dog trainer and you have a lot of experience and you can train. So that's another area where it's just very undefined country by country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
wonder-
in the equine, like a field, many organizations have their certification program for equine specialists. So, and
exactly.
IGALA has a certification for equine specialist path as other organization does. And that's how they get the credential of specialist.
I mean, obviously,
And they're not necessarily done their equine science 3-year degree. But they've got they've proved a degree of knowledge and understanding that might be experience related or it might be qualification related.
Correct.
there's a bigger problem here that we're not going to solve in the context of this
No.
group, right?
And we don't need to because we can't.
Right, we can't. So how do we?
I was just looking at, when I translated into Hebrew, the Ohio white paper, there is no word for handler in Hebrew. And I remember sitting there forever trying to figure out, how do I translate this thing? And then it went to the word of, what Miyako mentioned, responsible. So I just kept on writing the person responsible for the animal, just saying that instead of the word handler.
And my feeling is, if we can at all, like I presented and Miyako's talking about with the paper, it would be really sensible to be aligned with the equine recommendations and terminology where we can. So if we do get to this, should we go specialist or handler, but we know that the equine field which is a big part of the animal assisted work is equine assisted work. We know that they're already using the terminology equine specialist and have been for a long time. Would it be, sensible to be aligning with that and actually using the same terminology animal specialist?
So again, if we do, does that apply to the volunteers too?
What if we said animal service specialist? I don't know. That doesn't work either.
Maybe we should take some time to ponder other alternatives.
I think it has to apply. I think it has to apply for the range of training. For example, in Australia, even to be a therapist, for example, you can be a counsellor at a diploma level, which is what we call AQF level 6, or you can be a counsellor at a degree or a master's level. So you can start, like you're saying, Amy, at level 1 counselling with the Australian Counselling Association with a 1-year diploma, or you can do a 3-year degree, or you can do the master's, and it's acknowledged through your registration that you're level 1, 2, 3, or you can belong to another registration group that only registers counsellors that are degree and masters. So again, if we get twitterpated by the training behind it, I think we're going to lose the essence of what we're talking about. I think we have to choose a term that includes everybody with varying backgrounds. And that would include the volunteers that have done their, I don't know, 5-day training in pet partner work or whatever it is, because I don't know what the training is. And their role as an animal specialist, their visitation with their visitation animal.
Right, because you have to be a specialist with your own animal. You have to know your, all of the AAI competencies say that, you have a basic understanding of breed, species, and individual level, which I think even if you're doing whatever you're doing, you still have to have knowledge of your animal. So I don't have a problem with specialists.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily the case, particularly with volunteer teams and even some professionals, some therapists, OTPTs, who are intuitively incorporating animals into their treatment sessions. They don't have any special knowledge, or certainly not into species or animal behavior.
But they wouldn't be calling
operating
themselves
ethically.
an animals, but they're not calling themselves an animal specialist, are they?
They're calling themselves, well, right now they're considered handlers. And there's organizations whose criteria to be a animal handler, if you will, is so low. It's literally taking take your dog to the park with a bunch of other dog people who want to go into hospitals and nursing homes, and you spend 15 minutes showing off a sit and a down and a couple other things, and you're a therapy dog handler. I mean, that's a lot of what happens here. I don't think specialist applies to all volunteers without some.
Right, but if they're operating ethically, then they would need more, and I think that's the stuff that we write in the paper, that just like we wouldn't say, again, in the competency areas, that is one, the animal knowledge and, operating within your scope of practice. If I don't know, like I don't have rat knowledge, so I'm certainly not going to say, I'm bringing in a rat and now we're going to do all this work, because that makes me a fraud at that point.
Right.
But Nancy does, right? So if Nancy said that, she's bringing a rat in for some reason, she could say, I'm an animal specialist, I'm whatever.
But
I get that there are people who are in the field and are specialists. I get that, but to use it across all areas of professional and volunteers, can we think about maybe if there might be other words and come back? Do you
prefer the term handler, Laura?
I don't like the term handler because because of the absence of a relational component there. But
cute.
What, Amy?
Oh, I was just saying the rat was cute. That's all.
Oh.
Climbing all
Yeah, I just think there might be a word out there we haven't thought of.
Right. And that's a possibility. But I think to Meg's point earlier, like just show of hands, who likes specialist? Anybody else likes? And then who likes handler? Okay, there's 3 for who likes handler.
No, hang on. The vote, I don't think you saw Miyako's and Michael's.
I saw my, sorry, I didn't. So this is specialist. Okay. So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then, I like specialists. So
6.
Sorry, Laura.
In
Good,
my
Mariana.
case, I think that in my country, perhaps that name, it's very confused, because we talk about specialists in areas of For example, veterinary specialists in dogs, cats, horses, but it's not usual to talk about specialists that the people that don't have a formal education. So I think it's very confused for us in my country, for instance, but it's okay.
What about animal AAS specialist
Mhm,
or AAS animal specialist?
mhm.
Perhaps it's more accurate that
Yeah, it's specific for the field of AAS. Within that
yes,
field,
yes.
they're a specialist.
Could we do a specialist category thing that we've talked about potentially down the line, you know, like with AAT, OT, would there be a problem with saying animal specialist volunteer in brackets or animal specialist professional?
Mhm.
Which would imply the qualifications.
Yeah, and that's where I like Daniela's chart. It was similar to Laura's chart, but it goes into the
Yeah,
depth
the
a little
rubric.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where we fit.
Mhm.
So whatever, if we're keeping specialists or whatever, but then there's the rubric and then there's the narrative explanation. So maybe that will help people feel
Yeah.
better about using the term.
Maybe.
A
Maybe.
specialist that's within the rubric of that particular
Yes.
service. Yep.
Yeah. So
I have another possibility.
yeah, go ahead.
Liaison. Because we're bringing the two together,
Mhm.
bringing the animals to people.
Mhm.
It's an interesting one.
Mhm.
Arranges and assists in interactions between parties.
Gee, fit.
Spot on.
Mhm. See.
I think again, like that problematic part really is the liaison kind of imply that they are kind of neutral or
Oh,
equal, not necessarily responsible.
okay.
No, that's my opinion. Like I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
I guess I like the idea that it kind of bridges that connection between
Mhm.
the participant and the animal to me.
I think the
That's what
discomfort
I
we're
see.
all feeling is about the misunderstanding that could go with it
Yeah.
about qualification and
Yeah.
training. And I think that's what we're all stuck on. And so I'm not sure why we can't clear that up with brackets that are specified. Like, why can't we just say animal specialist in brackets volunteer? It's only one extra word. If we bother to go AAT in brackets psychotherapy in animal specialist in brackets professional, it's not really a big deal. So why wouldn't that be a very easy solution, that we have very agreed upon terminology that defines the T and the E and the S and the animal specialist?
Mhm.
It would be a simple solution to be able to go, oh, they're a volunteer. Yeah, animal specialist volunteer. Animal specialist professional. Oh, that's more likely going to be a qualified animal trainer or someone that's done a zoology degree and they've specialized in dog training, for example, or, you know.
Meg, can I just ask you, do you think that for those people, and the numbers are big, at least in the United States, who literally go through a 15, maybe a 20-minute assessment with their animal to become a therapy team, that and you know, yeah, nothing more as far as you know, education or preparation or anything like that. Is that term okay?
If they're getting paid,
that term?
I guess the problem is if they're getting paid, they're
No,
not
no,
going to
no.
use the
If they're
term volunteer.
volunteers, if they're
Well, then,
volunteers, and
I
that's
think
the level
Laura-
of.
I think Laura Ackerman brought up the term volunteer right back in the beginning of the meetings.
Mhm.
And I think Laura might be better placed to have a response there. You might know more of the broad sweep of the area, but my sense is that there wouldn't be too much resistance to people defining through the word volunteer, but I don't know. It's an assumption.
What was your question, Laura?
I guess I was just
volunteer?
wondering if people felt that specialists would, that these folks who literally went through a very brief evaluation and then continue for years and years and years to work with their animals out in the community, that the word specialist, it just,
Yeah, no, I
I'm wondering
understand.
if you feel that.
But I, going back to what I said earlier, I think you could have that same problem with the animal specialist professional, because what you're telling me is professionals
Right,
are
right.
professionals because they have a degree in counseling or OT or PT or
Right, but not
something, not
animals.
it, or education, not
Yeah.
in animals or
Yeah.
animal assisted work or something. Again, there's a bigger problem that we're not gonna
Yeah,
resolve
Yeah.
here.
yeah.
I feel like, like we have a limitation as to what we can do. And also, like I think we also need to accept, like, look, even very seasoned, like professionals, they are not all good at it either. Like they're like we have like a spectrum of people and skills, and right. So
Right.
and we can't really define the level of expertise, or that's not really what we can do in this group, I don't think.
Is anyone opposed to animal specialist brackets volunteer? Can we vote on that? Can we vote on whether we could use animal specialist or animal specialist volunteer?
Yeah.
Could we do a vote on that? Because I just don't know if people like that or
Take
don't
it.
like that.
Take it away. You're saying no.
No, it's a no from Michael. Who else isn't? Well, okay, let's do a yay on animal specialist volunteer. That's one from me.
I
Right.
don't mind. Yeah, I'll take it.
2, 3,
Mhm.
4, couple of 4 dubiouses. And then the other ones, would you just prefer animal specialist? Put up your hand.
My problem is I don't have a
1,
better
2,
option, honestly.
3.
Yes,
And Mariana, where do you lie?
yes, I think that is not a good definition for my country, because I speak about the problem of that terminology. The people think that someone that is professional in some area. So for me, it's a higher level that the person that developed that activity. So I couldn't find another word that defined that work better in
Yes.
Spanish and English.
So
I'm
you're
sorry.
similar to what Laura Hayes saying, that you don't feel comfortable with the term specialist because of the
Yes.
how it implies a degree of qualification and experience that they don't have. Mhm.
Yes.
I have
And
another-
I
another
totally hear
question.
you both on that. No, I have to just say I agree completely, but I also think functionally, I like the word animal specialist better than animal handler. So
Mhm.
I just want to say that I agree with what you're saying, but
Yes,
I also just think animal specialist is better than animal handler.
Yeah, I think
so
there's
do
an-
I. So
there's
do I.
another issue. It's not always a volunteer. Could be that some people, that is their work, is to be the animal whatever. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, so it's not always volunteer.
Yeah,
That was just an example.
Okay, I thought that you
that
were.
was, yeah.
Yeah, it was just-
No.
just an example.
Right.
It was
okay.
just specifying if it was a volunteer, they
Right,
could use
okay.
that term volunteer. And if it was a paid, they would just say animal specialist.
Animal equine specialist, yeah, for equines. Okay, never mind.
So.
So we could register the discomfort in the room, in the space around the qualification and training in the recommendations, but say that our majority was animal specialist, but that there was some discomfort about what that implied in terms of qualification and training.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I'm just writing these notes in like the rough outline. So as people are writing sections, there's some stuff there so we don't forget. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. And if you have other ideas, feel free to email them. And that leaves our last one, equally as complex, is the professional, paraprofessional,
Oh.
volunteer, the whole, which we can even, I mean, if you feel too exhausted today and we want to just meet up again, we
Let's
can
keep
do that.
going. Let's keep going.
Can you put the chart back up so we can look at that,
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
sections again? Because I had a comment on the orange section.
yeah. Okay, so, all right, can you see it? Is it-
So, yeah, so my question here, under animal assisted support, AASP, right? We have 3 categories. Really, some of the stuff you list under paraprofessional is done by volunteers, like the dogs on campus, the crisis intervention. There are volunteers doing those things. So I don't know how you want to categorize
Right.
them, those.
Well, and then, well, we could say it could be like because yeah, but there are there are people who have knowledge in those areas or are, I don't know, maybe we just put paraprofessional / volunteer. I mean, it's
almost like, right, animal assisted activities by default here is volunteer, because you have animal assisted activities, professional and paraprofessional, right? So you're implying that all the animal assisted activities are done by a volunteer. Is that true?
well, it's somebody with, yeah, kind of.
Right, because it's not a professional or a paraprofessional.
However,
There's just overlap in this area.
no, there
agree.
totally is. That's why we didn't finish it last time. There's probably still some other stuff.
Right.
But from my understanding, in some countries though, what is considered volunteer here is a paid service elsewhere.
Right, but maybe
So-
it's not right to separate them by professional and paraprofessional. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I actually wanted to ask, like, if, the dog in a dentist office, how would that be by professional? Like,
Right,
would it
because-
be, yeah,
Yeah, because as a volunteer, I've taken my dog to the dentist. I've
Mhm.
taken
Yeah.
my dog to
We have
campus,
too.
right? My dog
I
has
think-
gone a lot of places as a
Yeah,
volunteer.
I think we talked about that. That they fit under activity.
mhm.
Can we just
Right.
get rid of the all 3 ovals up at the
The
top there?
distinctions.
Why do we need the term animal assisted activities?
Right, or professional
Yeah,
or
that's just the
paraprofessional.
traditional term, right? But
Mhm.
right, there's this
But it
ever
says
growing.
visitation.
There's actually this ever growing group of activities that
It's
fall
just
under
all
here.
animal assisted support.
I've been to the airport with the dog. I've been to the military academy. There's such a wide range of things done by volunteers, and
Yeah.
sometimes maybe a professional might be involved, but not often.
Yeah, and I think even then, there's not, if I'm a therapist, but I'm at the airport with a dog, I'm certainly not doing therapy with people,
Right.
right? I'm there in a
Right.
volunteer
Mhm.
capacity.
Right, yes, and we have many
Yeah.
volunteers who actually were nurses or teachers or librarians or whatever, but they're acting in a volunteer capacity now.
Exactly.
That makes more sense to not have those. And I wonder if those 3
Mhm.
columns, then there is some redundancy, if those could just, be, not have 1, 2, 3 columns that were separate, but just to have a grouping underneath that includes all of that, then all of the orange
Yeah.
boxes.
Right, and that
Yeah.
leaves room to add more as that expands.
Yeah,
As that
right.
will continue to grow.
Mhm. Some
Which is the
examples, yeah.
same as the
That makes a
animal
lot of
assisted
sense.
treatment. It's just a group under there.
Uh-huh.
It's not columned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right,
it's
so
almost
really-
like examples.
That's what I was gonna say. That's
Yeah.
where this came from. This was like
Yeah.
examples, but we could easily somehow put them in a larger category. So,
Mhm.
but the only way that we could come up with here was actually providing examples. Like here we have,
Right.
the field, or we have, education, whatever the goals are. We always talk about it from,
Right.
who does the activity and what the goals are. So that's going to apply here too, right? Like,
Yeah. Well,
but again, if a dentist, I mean, which we would hope, and we can write this out too, but a dentist is, yeah, it's great that the dog's in there, but the fish aquarium is the same, right? Their purpose is not to
mhm.
you know, he's there to focus on your teeth and the dog's not
Right.
sniffing out your cavity or whatever. Like it's,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if there's a way we can, and that's what we had a hard time doing. How do you compartmentalize all of these different things? And sometimes like if they're, what the goals are matter and who's delivering the service matters.
Mhm.
So
But these are all things where you would say the goal is not, the progress is not documented, not,
Yeah, and it's support.
right,
They're
it's
support
not,
animals.
Mhm.
there's, right, these are examples of all these kinds of things. Not documented, not led by a professional.
mhm.
Mhm.
And as you said, they may or may not be consistent visits. They may be one time, they may be
Mhm.
ongoing.
And that could be
You
in
know, I
a
don't-
single distinction, saying those things could be under all of them, and the redundancy of like dogs on campus and courthouse dogs wouldn't be needed.
Right, and then now you do have horsemanship
Yes.
under there, so you probably want
I
to make
think
sure.
I think it's great to have
move.
examples, because I think the more that we define it, the better,
Mhm.
the clearer. Because I think if we lose the specificity underneath, we'll go back to what
Yeah.
we used to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's exactly why we need specificity at this moment underneath
Oh,
all the
right.
very general.
Right.
Yeah.
But some of them are on twice and in the list twice, and they wouldn't need to be now.
Oh,
Because first they were under
Yeah.
just services, and then they were also under
Right.
professional or paraprofessional.
Right.
Right, if there's a professional involved, then it's not support.
So I think the
Right.
therapeutic
Oh, no.
horsemanship, right? Like a horsemanship can be recreational and activity, but a horsemanship can be more educational
Mhm.
in there too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why we had the distinction. That's what the distinctions were.
Right.
Professional is licensed, agreed. That's where that fit in. This one was the benefits for participants rather than outcomes. Visits may or may not be all that you just said. Yep. Facilitator has education training in both human and animal something.
Did we resolve the issue of paraprofessionals?
No.
I really want us to really talk about it at some point, because paraprofessional, especially in education, you know, like the paras, teacher's assistant and teacher's aide,
Mhm.
under the guidance of the teacher, are critical in providing AAE. And I am pretty sure that model goes in the AAT as well. You know, nurse's assistant or physician's assistant, you know, if they do something under the guidance and supervision of the, you know, clinician, that probably will qualify in some cases. Like OT has quota, right? Like they are not certified OT, but they can do that. So like, I think those things need to be in there.
I think it's in there underneath non-educator led, under the AAE.
Yeah.
Like we've got under AAE qualified led as well as non-qualified led, like teacher led and non-teacher led.
So does that describe enough that we would without like specifically saying paras are like was that in there? Do you think it implies that they are included?
Well, we've got non-educator led. Could we, under those two top categories, I mean, I thought that if you're not an AAT or an AAE includes a qualified teacher, or it includes someone that's trained in, but not a, you know, like they're doing psychoeducation, or they're doing social and emotional learning, or they're doing other support, and they might be an integration aid, or they might just be someone that's done some training in social and emotional learning, and so they're including, but they're not a teacher. So I thought that would still come under AAE, and and that we were opening up that umbrella to include non-qualified, so that would sit under there. Do you want to specify it, Miyako?
I am a little bit torn about it. I don't want to exclude, or I don't really want to imply that, you know, like that's not accepted, you know, like it, but and it gets really wordy. And like, I don't necessarily want to create boxes that we don't need. Amy, would you scroll down a little bit and see like what's in that diamond thing? What does it say?
That was like the handler terminology. I put it in there because I didn't know what to.
Okay.
So it's not been defined.
No, I'm just thinking, you know, like teacher led, supervised, maybe, or
Led or directed by is what
Yeah, maybe.
Pet Partners and other groups have used.
I like it led, directed by. Yeah, directed.
So
No, but in some ways, and I think taking the para category out of the AASP kind of solve a part of the problem because they are not specified in there.
okay,
Yeah.
so then we just have to modify the distinction then.
Distinctions,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy. So is this one I mean, do you want to spend some time on the distinction? Like this through email, you can send your thoughts there to give us some time to kind of think through that, and then we can meet
Yeah,
again.
I don't even think this was the more current chart that we did, Amy. I think you had something that we used the one before, but we've got it up to more current now. So maybe you could email the chart out and we all give some any feedback around the distinctions.
Yeah, no, I thought that was. I think that was the latest one, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll send it
It
out.
certainly
Working off
is
of
the latest now.
one, but
Yeah.
to make this to send this one out would be nice.
Yes,
Amy.
this one.
Yeah.
This one,
Yeah.
not any
Well,
ones before.
It's in the folder. Everyone has access to it. So, but I can send it out.
What's the difference between human education in the AAE as opposed to the AASP?
Because this one, there's still the distinction was, okay, hold on, there is a distinction.
Professional.
I think this kind of was like what Miyako was talking about, like at Green Chimneys, when it's still done as part of the overall curriculum, but it's not led by the teacher, but it's somebody who is, you know, working under the supervision of an educator. Whereas this humane education might be somebody who comes in and talks to your class one time, or you know,
Humane
they're doing-
Society does that fairly often.
right, or they do like a camp and you can learn about, you know, you do camp for a week and you learn about animals. Like I think that was the distinction that we had.
But who runs that? Wouldn't it also be an educator? Or an aide?
An aide.
That would be an educator, but you know, like Humane Society or ASPCA, like they all have their trained, you know, their own trained educators, but they are not necessarily teachers.
Right.
But then isn't that the non-educator?
Sorry.
So doesn't that then fit into the green one? It's the AAE?
A lot of times it's volunteers and they talk about like how to safely approach an animal or greet an animal or allow an animal to greet you, I guess. Things like that, basic care. And they're a lot of the humane societies around here have volunteers that do that. Sometimes
even-
somebody from their behavior department is
Yeah.
involved, but it's not a,
Yeah.
it's
So-
kind of casual introductory education
Mhm.
information.
So it's almost like the educator, the bubble really implied that they are degreed educators.
Yes,
Right?
The
exactly.
green one does.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mm,
Right.
degreed or non-degreed.
Mhm.
exactly. And wouldn't those educators belong in the human animal interactions? Like, isn't that educating on animals? Isn't that like I don't understand how that's an animal assisted service. Someone
Because
coming in and teaching on animal studies.
Yeah.
Is Michael still here? Because he actually did it as a professional. So like he probably has the best explanation if he's still here.
No, I think he had to leave.
Oh,
Okay. Because I think Meg, what he told me is that like their goal is not necessarily to teach about animals. It's all about empathy, and like how they should care about other beings, and like how that will make them better person.
You mean the
You like
Anacare
it-
model, Kenneth Shapiro's Anacare program? Is that what you're
Mhm.
talking about? Yeah.
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 So they've got social and emotional goals. So it
Exactly.
belongs in psychoeducational,
AAE, yeah.
social
Yeah.
emotional
Definitely.
goals.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
Mhm.
very different from when the, Humane Society does classroom visits here. With
Yeah,
that,
if it's
I
just
think
animal
does fit in
studies, it
human
doesn't even
animal.
belong in
Right,
here
it
unless
does-
it's got social emotional goals.
It seems
then how
like
do you
that should fit in HAI, and then the humane
Mm.
education that Michael and Mayuko, I'm sorry.
If they have
that should be over in the
goals.
green area, right? Should either be green or it should be HAI depending on,
The goals.
yeah.
Yes,
It's just like a horse person. Like if you're coming
Sure.
to train about horses, this
Yeah.
is equine studies. It's not equine assisted services. It's like
Right.
a horse person coming to train on understanding your horse. That's
Mhm.
horsemanship, horsepersonship, equine studies. But
Right.
if it's in relation to the person that's receiving the education, their
Mhm.
social and emotional
Right.
learning goals,
That's
then
where
it
the
becomes
Anacare model
equine
comes in.
assisted
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
Yeah, and character building, and like some of the other things too. Like it's a little bit
Right.
broader than just talking about animals. But they
Right.
are not necessarily always, led by the degree, educational professional.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it is in the green area already. Okay, so the one that's under the orange should really just go to the next page to HAI,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one should.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what we're saying. Yeah.
Oh, Michael's back. He's coming back.
I mean, it's,
I think we may just ask him. I think he may have a better answer than I can provide.
Wait, you took out the human education, the Anacare model type of thing, you took it out of AAE?
I don't know. Someone said to take it out.
no. Out of the orange.
Out of the orange,
Oh, got it. Okay.
not out of the green.
The orange goes to HAI, I think.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have to move it around because it'll take me a second.
Mhm.
So go ahead, you can talk to Michael and we'll move this around.
Sorry, I dropped off. I lost connection and I had to come back in. But I'm here.
We need.
No, Michael, we were just talking about the humane education and why it's under the education and not in the support services. And I
Right.
think that, like I try my best to explain, but I think you have the most experience and like insight into that.
Well, I mean, in terms of goals, humane education is intended to really raise empathy, care, and concern. That's really the goal, as well as sharing factual information about the human-animal interaction and the environment. Is that kind of what you said?
I think I was pretty close, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
Wonderful. Well, we've worked together for what, 17 years?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
What?
All right, I'm trying. All right, I think it's there. I have to. It's not. All right, so do we feel comfortable so far? I know we still have to work out the peer professional. Do we feel done? Keep
and
going?
just- You wanted us to think about distinctions over this next?
Yep. Okay, so when do we want to meet again? But I do want to do like 2 weeks, 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
We've got a deadline, don't we, coming up?
Yeah.
Maybe
It's,
two.
July, I think we have to have kind of a write-up by July.
Oh,
Well,
that's pretty soon.
I mean, it's flexible, but I know they want to have everything reviewed and done and ready to go by September. So, I mean, if it pushes a little bit later in July, that's okay too.
17th or 24th of June, maybe? 2 or 3 weeks?
Can we do 2 weeks so we
It's okay.
move this along? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would vote for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would
Laura,
too.
that's a good idea.
I've got-
Except Michael, you and I are probably not gonna be able to do the 17th. We have
I
visits
can't-
from the Massachusetts.
Yeah, I can't
Government.
do the 17th either. I have a webinar conference I'm doing. Unless we did Thursday,
24?
the 20th. I
Going
mean, that's
back
just
to
another day that
Saturday.
week. Yeah, if you, yeah, we could go back to Saturday or go through the 24th.
Do it on Saturday too.
Preference? The 24th, raise your hand.
Preference not Saturday. But whatever-
Okay, so the
whatever gets us the
24th,
most attendance.
I can do it on the 24th.
okay, so 24th. So how many? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for Saturday, the 18th. Okay, 24th it is. So do you want to change the time a little bit? Do we need to modify?
Yeah, it's a good time for me.
For me, it's okay.
Okay, so let's put the time down, 4 p.m.
Boy, I just gotta say thank you to you people who are up in the middle of the night.
I know, honestly, like, I don't know how you do it.
I can't.
I don't know how you do it. I would not be well
Keep your
functioning,
high
but
hours.
yeah. I'll send the link again, just so that you have it. And yeah, then just feel free to make comments, send emails. I'll try to make sure I get them out to everyone too. But if you have ideas for distinctions, email them. We'll maybe do another vote on them at some point. So
Do you want me that we write in the drive each part that we choose? For example, I choose to write about human-animal interaction and that things, or yes?
yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah, good. Thanks for bringing that up too. So what we can do is like within the outline, you can work with someone. Oh, there's all the titles. That's nice. Thanks, Miyako. But if you are working together with someone, you can kind of work it out together with a subgroup and then just, start putting it right in here. And then, we'll have, Nancy's a good editor, Meg's a good editor. There's a lot of good editors in here that can put it into one voice, but if we can just get the content and the message that we want to deliver, that would be fantastic. But this we don't really have to have done until July. So if we can have it by the mid to end of July, that would be fantastic.
I need a handler for my work, so if someone to be with me, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I think that somebody say they wanted to do HAI.
So, yeah,
I think.
Oh,
who-
Nancy.
It wasn't Nancy because she's down here. It was La Plata. Was that you? Was that your group?
yes.
That's your group,
My
okay.
group, my group, yes.
Gotcha. So, even if you have people within your group that wants to help, that's fine too.
Okay,
We can
okay,
totally
okay.
do that. Yeah. And if anybody else wants to be a part of that, we will.
I'm able to help wherever.
Okay. Well, Laura, do you want to work with Mariana then?
On what,
okay.
what heading?
The HAI, like what we are not defining, the HAB,
Oh.
HAI.
Okay,
Are you okay with
Yes.
that?
is that okay,
works.
Mariana?
Especially because I have many limitations with the difference between Spanish and English. So for me, it's very useful to work with someone that is
Mhm.
English speaker.
Okay, great. So then you
Okay,
guys can set up some time on your own and, throughout the next month and a half or so.
Perfect,
Okay, awesome.
perfect. Thank you.
Wow. Seems like there was a lot done today.
Actually got stuff done. Actually. Great, so I will get the recording ready and send it right out to everybody.
Okay. All right, sounds great. Well, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Everybody.
Nice to meet everybody
Okay,
again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.